Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some very good beers from these guys over the years, and they really made their name when it came to the kind of New England hazy style IPAs, and they've become a very well respected brewery in England off the back of that. So it's one of those kind of signature beers that we're going to have today. This one is a little bit hyped, and I'm really glad to be able to do this review for you on the channel, because it's probably unlikely that I'll get the chance to do this one again. So for this review then, we are going to head down to Cornwall in the southwest of England, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Verdant Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Putty. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA. So yeah, very curious to see how this beer turns out. A big shout out to Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews for sorting me out with this can. I wasn't sure whether to do another order from House of Trembling Madness or whatever when this was coming out, because I will be returning to Sweden very soon. But yeah, Harry was able to sort this one out for me, so a huge thank you to him for making this review possible. But this beer, from what I understand, is released every January. I have actually tried this once before, although one of the older versions. I think that was back in 2016, I want to say, and that was when my friend Rob from Hopscene came over to Copenhagen on his 40th birthday trip, and we tried this beer in Himmeret in Nørrebro in Copenhagen along with Peter, the master of hoppets. And I think there is actually a video of us tasting this beer either on Rob's channel or on Peter's channel. It might well be on Peter's channel, come to think of it. So yeah, probably Peter's channel, because I think, yeah, Peter was the one who always did the vlogs. I'm pretty sure it's on Peter Master of Hoppets' channel actually. But yeah, definitely nice to have this beer for you on the channel. Once again, from what I remember, this was an awesome beer, so fingers crossed this one is as good as I remember it being. But definitely nice to be able to do a kind of solo review of this one for you here on the channel. So hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. It's always nice to return to Verdant Brewing Company, of course, and this is the second of 4 reviews that you're going to see from Verdant during this kind of series, if you like, this cycle of Scottish and English reviews. I've got 2 others that I filmed before this that are different styles that this brewery are not well known for, and those were pretty nice beers as well, so you'll see those a little bit later. But yeah, the Putty New England double IPA, 8% ABV, a very kind of hyped beer, if you like, so let's go for it. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Verdant Brewing Company before, and like I said, you will see more added to that list very soon. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite a lot at the moment because I'm enjoying an extended period of time at home in the motherland of Scotland, and the English beers are very accessible for me at the moment, which is never a bad thing. A really thriving beer scene down there at the moment. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Verdant Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Verdant Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, were originally based in Falmouth, but these days they're brewing their beers in Penryn. But this is in Cornwall in the southwest of England. Cornwall is actually regarded as one of the Celtic nations. They've got their own language and everything, which is pretty cool, but I think their language is more related to Welsh actually. I think that's the C-type Celtic language rather than the G-type like Gaelic, Irish and Manx. So yeah, quite interesting. I do need to get down to Cornwall and have a little look around, and I'd love to go to Wales as well, so definitely something for the future. But anyway, like I said, Verdant were originally based in Falmouth, but these days they're brewing in Penryn. But the company was founded back in 2014 by Adam Robertson and James Heffron, who were joined in the very early days by Rich White. So Adam was a designer by trade, and James had been a home brewer for a number of years, while Rich was an electrician who actually helped them build the brewery, and he bought into the company as a partner. So they ordered the brewing equipment back in 2014, and they started brewing their beers earlier on the following year in 2015. But initially they struggled to get their beers recognised in Cornwall because of the traditional beer culture that's there. And this is something that I've not really covered on the channel actually. I do need to try and get some of these traditional Cornish beers to review for you, because it's just it's not something we get too much of in the supermarkets in Scotland or anything. So that's something that I will need to look at when eventually I do make it down to Cornwall. Maybe Harry can help me out with that as well, actually. But yeah, their beers were making big waves across the rest of England, and then, you know, gradually they've kind of built up their reputation in their home area, if you like, which has been pretty cool. And now these beers are very well recognised throughout Cornwall. But they were originally based in the Tregenigi industrial estate in the west of Falmouth, and this brewery was upgraded to have a 16 hectolitre brewing system, and it had a weekly capacity of 8,000 litres of beer per week, at its peak, if you like. But later they opened up their bar and restaurant on Quay Street in 2018, and this came after they did a crowdfunding campaign, and very recently they've opened up a new brewery in Penryn, which is fitted with a 35 hectolitre brewing system, and this is going to help them get their beers out there a lot more. So probably the future batches of Putty will be a lot bigger than the current ones that they're doing. So yeah, but the brewery is up and running, so maybe this batch of Putty is one of the bigger ones. It didn't really quite say. But yeah, as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 different kinds of beer. As I said to you, they are very well known for the kind of hazy New England style IPAs. Those are, yeah, that's probably their signature style, to be honest. But they do other things. I've got a Pilsner review coming up from them, a West Coast double IPA. I had a little flick through the website earlier on. I think they have done a couple of stouts and things like that, but yeah, mainly it is IPAs that these guys are well known for. That's their signature style, basically. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Verdant Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the history section, and let's get on and have a look at this beer itself then. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. The artwork of this, I think, is quite different compared to it is quite different to what we've had before from the other. I'm sure it was different from the one that Rob brought to Copenhagen, actually, although he, I'm sure, can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But this one, like I say, a double IPA. Coming in at 8% ABV, Mosaic, Galaxy and Azaka. So, you know, Mosaic, as we know, about 14% alpha acid, lovely kind of tangerine orangey notes. Galaxy, Australian hop, it has that lovely big kind of passion fruity note to it. You know, but it's also got a little bit of pineapple and things from what I remember as well. And then Azaka is a kind of, it's another American hop, and I'm sure that's about 13 or 14% as well, alpha acid. But yeah, that one gives you, you know, kind of quite bright mandarins from what I remember, and then it also gives you a little bit of kind of pineapple and things too. So yeah, I've got very good feelings about this one, I have to say. But yeah, it says it's got good oats, a good little bit of oats and wheat in it. I think I did have the Untappd page open earlier, and that was saying, that told you the malt base. So let me just have a wee look. It says the malt base in this one is Golden Promise, wheat, oats, flaked wheat and dextrose. For those of you that are interested in the Untappd rating on this one, it's 4.38. I never really look at this one, but yeah, we can close that now and we can get on with actually tasting this beer. But lovely beer, this one. 440ml can. I'm not actually sure how much this one cost, because it arrived with me and Harry told me that he hasn't actually paid for the 4 yet, so I need to send Harry a little bit of money later on for this. But I think, you know, for postage and the beer, I think it'll be like a tenner that I'll need to send Harry or something. So about £10, 120 kroners, but obviously postage. So I guess the beer might be about like £7 or something like that. So yeah, for those of you watching in different places, £7, roughly about €8, 80 Swedish, that would translate to about 82 or 83 Swedish kroner, and then yeah, maybe about $88.50 American. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. I quite like the simplistic artwork, and I'm noticing that it says here, I don't know if we should call this one Putty Star, because it's got this, because it says Redux on the side as well. But yeah, let's get this guy out and get on it with the tasting then. It's reminded me of my old chemistry days in Aberdeen. Reduction is loss, oil rig, or sorry, bleh. Oxidation is loss, reduction is gain, oil rig. The gaining and losing of electrons in reactions. Fun times. But yeah, as you can see, this beer is just a big, thick, hazy thing. This is going to be awesome. I'm just going to pour it very carefully because I don't want the head to go too crazy, but I suppose we've still got a little bit left in there. I'll let it just kind of settle and we can do the aroma and stuff from there. But yeah, as you can see, this beer just looks absolutely beautiful. If I shine the light through this one, it's a lovely, very, very rich, kind of ambery looking colour beer. This is definitely one of the richest and kind of almost buttery looking New England double IPAs that you're going to come across. It's got that lovely, the colour of this is just absolutely beautiful. If you shine the light through this, it comes across with a real kind of rich amber colour, but I think to you guys on the camera, this one, it actually looks a little bit more pale, like just a kind of straight up, you know, like a mango juice, or a mango and maybe peach juice or something like that. It's got a little bit of that kind of more mixed tropical fruit vibe to it. But if I stick my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is hazy as hell. It's craziness. But you can see the head on this one is a little bit more, is just a little bit more than a finger, and it's perfectly frothy. I would describe it as being a cream colour rather than being perfect white. But yeah, there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but overall it looks really nice. But yeah, lovely rich colour to this one. Remember that the colour of your beer is dependent on two things: one, the type of malts that you use, and two, the length of the boil that you do for the wort. Normally a New England double IPA like this is going to be between a 70 and a 90 minute boil, something like that. But yeah, the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour out of it. But again, the actual colour that you end up with at the end is also dependent on the different, you know, what malts it is you're actually using in there. But yeah, to shine the light through this, it looks pretty. It does look pretty impressive actually. But remember, the level of haze on these beers is dependent on the wheat and the oak content, and you know, it varies from brewery to brewery. I've had triple IPAs from Russia and things like that that don't quite look as hazy as this one, but this does look pretty soupy and gloopy, to be honest with you. So yeah, but I think the soupiest and gloopiest IPAs I've ever come across were some of the ones from Chicago over in the States. You know, those were just crazy, but it certainly looks like a very, very rich and very impressive beer, this one. So nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is, but let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this. I'm very, very curious to see what this has in store for us. Yeah, beautiful beer. It just strikes me as really, really well balanced. I mean, straight away with this one, it strikes me as being quite oily but really bready at the same time. So you've got that lovely soft kind of white bready quality out of this one, and that'll be, I would think, the Golden Promise there. Golden Promise gives you a lovely kind of, it gives you that lovely big soft fluffy white bready note, and you can get that right away in this beer. So it comes across just absolutely beautifully, I have to say. Yeah. Very, very nice. Yeah, so for me, straight away with this one, you're going to notice that lovely soft white bready note in there. If you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you're going to get the wheat, that little bit of bitiness and almost spiciness from the wheat. So you get that right at the back of your nose. Soft, the white bready notes just really jump out of this one for me. But on top of that, you can smell some of the creamy oats, and for me, there's quite a little bit. There's a good little bit of that sort of Werther's Original kind of butter candy type thing out of this, which is really interesting. It smells like it's going to be a big oily and sweet thing, this. So maybe they've gone in a little bit heavy with the Golden Promise on this one, and that's never a bad thing. Golden Promise is a beautiful, beautiful malt. But yeah, it comes across as very well balanced. I mean, it does lean towards the oily end of things just going by the aroma, but we'll see how that translates into the flavour profile, of course. But it's got a lovely, it's just got a lovely blend of things going on in the malt base here. I always like to focus on the malt base a bit in my reviews because I think it's just such a critical part of of these beers. A lot of people just focus on the hops, I think, but for me, malt base is really, really important. I think it's maybe just the Scottish sweet tooth, as I've said in quite a few reviews before. But yeah, lovely, lovely smelling malt base, this one. The more that you smell of it, the more that you start to get these brown sugary notes, which is great. So yeah, you've got a lovely, as I say, there is a bit of a sweet kind of caramelly thing going on there, but it comes across quite similar to a kind of Werther's Original type vibe, if you like. But remember, with these New England IPAs, there's quite a few directions you can take them in. You know, you can take them to the more kind of yeasty, farmhousey side of things. You can have them being a little bit more sort of rye-based, almost like you know, the Alchemist ones. You can get the more oaty leaning ones like the Tree Houses. You can get the more wheaty leaning ones like the Trilliums. You know, you can get a few that are kind of more brown sugar orientated and things like that. Then you get the soft kind of bready, leaning the barley malt orientated ones. So yeah, it just varies from brewery to brewery, but this one smells as if it's going to be like a big oily beast actually. But yeah, the malty side of this beer, so important. But let's focus on the hoppy side of it now. So yeah, for me, there's a little bit of earthiness comes out of this one, and that'll be the mosaic that's giving you that. You've got some really nice kind of big floral aromatic notes to this one, and with all of these hops you would expect that. All of them are capable of giving you these big spicy kind of floral aromatic notes, which is great. All of them I think are about 14% alpha acid if I'm remembering rightly. So yeah, nice big floral aromaticity. Good little bit of grassy quality to this beer as well. There's some really nice, there's some really nice kind of almost zestiness to the grassy qualities as well actually, and I really like that about this one for sure. But yeah, it comes across just really nicely. Beautiful stuff. So the green component for me, it really leans towards that big deep floral aromaticity, which isn't surprising considering the hops that are in here and their compositions, but yeah, the grassiness kind of gives you a little bit of a compliment as well. So just, you know, take a little bit of time and appreciate that green side of the beer. But on the fruitiness, that's where it gets really interesting for sure. So for me, it's got a really, you can get a little bit of that kind of strong passion fruit in there, which will be the Galaxy all the way. Galaxy is the one that's going to give you that. So lovely little bit of a stronger passion fruit in there. There's a wee bit of, there's a little bit of, how would you say, there's a little bit of a kind of more mellow mango kind of thing in there. You've got a few other kind of softer tropical fruits, you know, big oil. For me it's quite a big oily juicy mango, but there are little hints of, you know, these apricots, papayas and stuff like this, these other kind of things that you can get from Galaxy. But yeah, beyond that, you do get quite a bit of pineapple in this one, and there's a good blend of kind of big, you know, oily, orangey type things. You know, you get the tangerines from the mosaic and the slightly kind of mandarin-y note from the Azaka. But yeah, the fruits, the more that you smell of this beer, I think the more you get the orangey side of it, but you get the real pungency of the passion fruit just lingering there as well. But the pineapple, just almost gives you a good little bit of juiciness, to be honest with you. So yeah, it's kind of what you would expect. If you know these hops, this beer does come across in a way that you'd really expect. But let's just get the last of that in there and see how we go. So yeah, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma with this beer, as I always say, but we're going to taste this one now and have a go at it. This is the Putty, a New England Hazy Double IPA coming in at 8% ABV, one of the very hyped beers from Verdant Brewing Company, now in Penryn, formerly in Falmouth, down in Cornwall in the southwest of England. Let's get stuck into this one. A big thank you again to Harry from Blue Nose Beer Reviews for making this possible. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, it's very nicely done, that. It is kind of like how I remember it. I remember this just being a big oily and slick beast of a New England IPA. It's just, it's so well done, this. It just hits the spot. I mean, as I said earlier, there's so many directions you can take these New England IPAs in. Yeah, there's so many directions that you can take these New England IPAs in, and but even if you do that, if you choose a certain direction, you know, am I going to go oaty, am I going to go wheaty, am I going to go more kind of oily and slick sort of thing, then you've got to get everything else right. And this beer just has that blend of things. You know, I've had New England IPAs and stuff like such as the Hey Fem from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company over in Copenhagen, that have just kind of struck me. And this one, I think, is very much along that same lines as well. It really just kind of struck me, this one. So it's a lovely beer for sure. So yeah, it's really just beautifully done, this beer. So massive thumbs up to Verdant Brewing Company for this one. I think they've done very good job with this, but it doesn't surprise me. Like I say, I have had this beer a good couple of years before, 4 years ago. But yeah, where to start with this one then? Yeah, so straight away in the middle of your palate you can feel that lovely smoothness in the malt base there. Soft kind of white bready notes from the Golden Promise, which is great. But yeah, lovely soft, just bready base to the beer, which is very, very nice. I think the more that you drink of this, it does kind of thicken up a little bit. But the malt base in this beer is just really, really well done actually. So yeah, that forms the basis of the middle third of your palate there. As you go a little bit further back, you do get one or two, there is a little bit of a kind of graininess or dryness on that border region between middle third and back third of your palate. But then yeah, as you go into that back third of your palate, you start to get the wheat, and the wheat does have a little bit of kind of pungency to it. There's a wee bit of bitiness at the very, very back of the palate, but the wheaty side of the beer, it does feel kind of quite, it's not such a fluffy wheat. It's quite a condensed wheat, and it does feel really kind of condensed and smooth, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is really, really nice actually. So yeah, the wheaty side of this beer just adds a little bit of bite at the back of the palate, which I think is really, really nice. But you've got a nice kind of smoothness there as you kind of move forward. So you've got some really nice yeah, it's just got a really, really lovely kind of smoothness in there, which is great. But then as you as you kind of go into that border region, it's just got a wee bit of kind of bitiness to it as well, which is quite interesting. So you get a little bit of graininess there, and a wee bit, and it just kind of builds a really good border there. So the bitiness of the wheat in this one really just builds a good bridge between the kind of big floral aromatic notes that the beer has. But the malt base is fairly straight shooting. It's just really well executed. I think that's fair to say. So yeah, the back third of your palate is all about the wheat and the smoothness of the wheat there. Just a little bit of bitiness and a little bit of pungency there. But as you move further forward and you go into the middle third of your palate, underneath that you get that soft kind of white bready character in there. You've got some nice kind of oaty qualities. You've got a really nice kind of oaty smoothness there in the middle of the palate. But then on top of that oatiness, you've also got that big kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing coming out of this. I would say that this beer gets sweeter and sweeter the further that you go into the aftertaste, but it does, the sort of Werther's Original type thing, I think it'll be from a combination of the Golden Promise, but also it'll also just be the kind of boozy flavours out of the beer. So yeah, the booziness in a lot of these New England IPAs just comes out as being, it does come out as being a little bit sort of just Werther's Original, like it really kind of tastes like that, whereas in the West Coast IPAs it would be a lot more kind of oily and kind of caramelly and biscuit like. So yeah, in these New England IPAs it's a lot more like a kind of Werther's Original butter candy type thing. But the oaty smoothness, I think, is the component that really starts to come out more and more the further that you go into the aftertaste. So yeah, really nice. There's a really nice kind of soft white bready note underneath this, like I say, the barley malt coming out there, the Golden Promise giving you that, the big oat and the big thick oat note in the middle of your palate, and then that kind of Werther's Original kind of thing sitting on top of that. Yeah, it's really nice how all of this goes together actually. I really, really like how this one pieces itself together. Yeah. So yeah, I really like how this one, the malt base in this is just really nicely executed. Yeah, oatiness comes out a little bit more, it gets a little bit sweeter I think the further you go into the aftertaste, but still that kind of little bit of wheaty bitiness, it's just letting you know that it's still there. But yeah, beautifully done malt base. On the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on that. Back corners of the palate, you've got a really nice little bit of earthiness there, that'll be the mosaic I think that's giving you that. But yeah, as you move further forward, the earthiness fades away quite quickly, then you start to get a nice kind of deep, almost resinous type quality to this one. But as you reach the kind of, as you kind of come further forward along the sides of the palate there, you've got some really nice floral aromaticity out of the beer, which is great. So yeah, it's really, really nice how that how that side of things goes together. But yeah, the floral aromaticity, I wouldn't describe it as spicy, but it's quite deep and really kind of rich in that sense, so you just get a wee bit of that kind of big floral aromatic quality on the sides of your palate. But as you go round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit lighter and grassy, but I would say it does have a little bit of zest to it. There is a little bit of a kind of zesty quality around that front curve of your tongue, which is very nice. And then behind that, of course, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get the nice juicy fruity notes out of this one. And again, the fruits are a little bit oily in this as well, I would say, for sure. So yeah, the fruity juicy side of things in this is very, very good. So on the on that note then, as I always say, that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So as you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, there's a really nice just kind of more pungent passion fruit to it, but it's not overly pungent, it doesn't kind of dominate the beer, but that's the Galaxy giving you that passion fruity note. But as you move further forward, it just kind of mellows out a little bit, and the passion fruit kind of brightens up, and then you start to get the kind of softer sort of mangoey notes in there. I don't get so much of an apricot in this one. I thought from the aroma I was going to get these, you know, softer apricot, papaya type flavours and stuff, but no, it's mainly it is a little bit of a mango sort of thing, but it's darker, more pungent passion fruit, then it mellows out a little bit, then you just get a wee hint of mango there. But as you reach the front half of that front third of your tongue, that's when you get the big oily kind of orangey notes, if that makes sense. You start to get the kind of the slightly sharper tangerines, if you like. Sorry, the sharper mandarins from the Azaka, and the more kind of juicy, lighter kind of tangerines from the Mosaic. So I really, really like how that side of the beer pieces itself together, actually. But yeah, the fruity side of this, it's really big and oily, and I just think that suits it. But the further you go into the aftertaste, I think that the passion fruit does kind of just get a little bit more kind of prominent, if you like, the further you go into the aftertaste, but the big oily oranges just kind of linger there, and you do almost just get a little bit, you can feel the kind of orangey zest around that front edge of your tongue as well. There is a wee bit of pineapple in this one for me, but that kind of comes out as almost more like a subtlety. For me, it's the passion fruit of the Galaxy, and then it almost feels in a way that the pineapple and the orange are kind of mixed into each other on that front third of the palate. But I think the orange kind of dominates, the orangey elements dominate there, but on the very edge of the tongue you might feel that it's a little bit sort of lemony in a sense as well, because of the orangey zest. It's got quite a powerful zest to it, this beer. Not the most powerful I've come across, right enough, but certainly pretty formidable. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer, it's got a lovely oiliness to it, and it just complements the rest of the beer very, very well. And I think, you know, I've always enjoyed an oily beer. I mean, I've found that with the Slovenian stuff I've reviewed, with the West Coast IPAs. Maybe that's why I still really enjoy the West Coast IPAs, is just the oiliness, and probably that's what struck me with this beer and, for example, the Hey Femme. So maybe I'm a fan of a big oily mouthfeel when it comes to beers, and maybe that's the reason why this one kind of struck me so much when I had it, you know, 4 years ago or whatever it was. But it's a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. And I think it's really nicely executed. It may well have been 2017, come to think of it, that we had it. I think it might have been 2017 that Rob came to Copenhagen. But it's a beautifully executed beer, this one. Big thumbs up to, you know, big thumbs up to Verdant Brewing Company for this. Absolutely. You know, if you get the chance to try this beer, just go for it, because you really will enjoy this. So, yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would describe this beer as being, you know, kind of right in the middle, or kind of bottom end of full bodied. It's kind of somewhere around there. The carbonation is very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall, it does have a nice little bit of slickness to it and a real bit of smoothness. You've got some kind of, you know, it's got a real slickness and smoothness to it. You've got a lot of stuff going on in this one. So yeah, kind of bottom end of full bodied, smooth carbonation, really slick, really oily, and just very, very nice. On the hoppy bitter side of things then, I would say that this beer is, it's not got a lot in terms of bitterness. I mean, I think it's only about 30. I think it's one of the lower bitterness double IPAs that I've come across, in fairness. Maybe 40 IBUs at a push, but these are kind of standard IBU counts for beers of this nature. So yeah, about 40 Probably, yeah, about 40 IBUs I would think is standard for a double IPA. It tends to be, yeah, regular New Englands are about 30, then 40 for the doubles, 50 for the triples. But yeah, I think this one's 30 or 40 IBUs. It seems to be not so bitter though in my mind. But the malt base, like I say, lovely softness too underneath, but it comes across as a little bit kind of denser and thicker the more that you drink the beer, and it's got a good little bit of sweetness to it as well, just to cover up the booziness of the beer. Nice kind of aromatic hoppy elements, and then a big oily, but still, still reasonably juicy, fruity character to this one. But this is just a really, really nicely executed beer. I remembered this one being good, and it certainly lived up to my expectations. I like the big orangey leaning IPAs though, and that's maybe one of the other reasons why I associated with this one. A big oily orangey leaning IPA, be it New England or West Coast, kind of suits me down to the ground. So yeah, this one certainly does strike a chord with me. But I would highly recommend you try this beer if you get the chance. Probably it's better to ask the English beer tubers whether they think this is one of the best Verdant ones they've had, but I think this is a pretty damn good beer actually, and I would compare this a little bit to the Hey Femme from Dry and Bitter Brewing Company, which is one of my favourite IPAs that I've had in recent times. The Chronic from Stigbergets as well, that was a triple though, right enough. But yeah, those two beers I think are ones that really stand out for me. And Charismatico from OO Brewing, that's another one. This beer I think is kind of on that level actually. It's up with them. So yeah, solid stuff from Verdant Brewing Company. Probably one of my favourite IPAs that I've reviewed in this particular cycle of English reviews actually. So big thumbs up to them. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Putty, a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA from Verdant Brewing Company in Falmouth and Cornwall. Beautifully executed, just a lovely big oily New England IPA for me. So let's leave it there. Thank you again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Verdant Brewing Company. You will see 2 more reviews from these guys coming up very, very shortly, and that will be a West Coast IPA and a Pilsner, so not styles that this brewery are very well known for. But check out this one, the Putty, beautiful, beautiful beer. And a big thank you again to Harry from Blue Nose Beer Reviews for making this possible. Slàinte, skull, cheers, catch you guys in the next one. Make sure you check out the Putty from Verdant Brewing Company in Falmouth and Penryn in Cornwall down in the southwest of England. Slàinte, skull, cheers, see you guys very soon.